Hi everyone, so I am Matthew. I am the customer service manager here at Pinetree Garden Seeds, and today I'm here to answer some questions for all of you. So my favorite parts at working at Pinetree is the customers. I really enjoy my time on the phones with all of you, and even an email. I know there's some of you that prefer to, discuss back and forth, and I enjoy that. There's so many customer interactions that I've enjoyed. It's hard to pinpoint just one. I would have to say if I had to blanket that into it's listening to customers with their experiences over the years. And I've had one customer, that grew a morning glory that is no longer actually carried by many growers. And she sent us some of the seeds so we could grow it personally in our gardens. We've had customers do that with beans that are no longer available. It's listening to those types of stories of what they've grown over the years, and their experiences then versus now, and it's just very interesting. I love anything that has to do with plant history, and a lot of you share that with me, and I love that, and please continue to do that. So there's a running joke in my family that I've been gardening since I was born. I was a colicky baby, and my mother had such a difficult time making me comfortable. And there was one specific day that I was in my car seat on the kitchen table, and my mom had placed a bouquet of flowers on the table in front of that car seat, and I instantly stopped crying. And my mother and my grandmother looked at each other, was like, oh my gosh, we found something that is finally going to work. And I literally stared at it for hours and fell asleep. And that day forward, they found that I had such a passion for flowers and gardening. And years later, when I was able to actually physically do gardening, around 4 or 5 years old, I was diagnosed with dyspraxia, which means it's an eye-hand coordination and speech issue. So my speech is I would talk very fast and my words would run together because my brain was thinking what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it slow enough. So I learned botanical names of plants, and that helped me slow down my speech so I could actually enunciate words correctly. So you would have to say that without plants, I would not be anything. So they are my life. And I had a family that encouraged me strongly with gardening. So my hands were always in the soil, and may it be picking flowers or planting them, learning names, learning better ways to grow vegetables, so on and so forth. It's been a big part of me since day one. So I grew up on the lake in Maine for part of my life when I was younger, and I've always had such a passion for like a woodsy, campy feel. So my dream garden is to have a rustic cottage garden in the woods. And I would love to see ferns and mosses and shade gardens, but also sun gardens, but have that natural feel to it. I don't like anything that is overly manicured because to me that's not Maine. I like things that are going to bring out the woods part of it, the lake feel of it, but also that's going to attract our pollinators, our bees and birds and butterflies. My biggest thing is listen to music in the garden, sing in the garden, dance in the garden, feel and become a part of your garden. I learned a very long time ago from an old family friend. I was probably, 5, 6, 7 years old, and he had told me that they feel your vibrations. They know when you're at your happiest, and it's usually in the garden. Do that all the time, and I have noticed they do nothing but thrive, and it's a great way to make yourself feel better too. And that is my number one tip that I share. It's not a chore. Don't make it a chore. Make it something that you love, and plants will just take off. I would have to say getting Cleome to germinate. It is one of the most difficult seeds to germinate for me. And I finally, this year, after many people that work here that grow this seed, have told me that you need to cold stratify or cold put it in a freezer for 2 weeks. That finally got me some germination this year. Not the amount that I want. I'm never giving up though. So that's one of my personal failures. Another issue was corn. I actually I grow corn every year. And last year I forgot to hill my corn. And when you grow corn in raised beds, you do need to hill it every 2 weeks or so, especially if it's been raining. Corn is very shallow rooted, so if it doesn't have that hill dirt, it will fall over. And I live in a storm belt, and unfortunately we had a cyclone go through our property when my corn was starting to tassel. I had 175 stalks of corn that got flattened to the ground, and it was my fault. I knew that. And I sat in the middle of the bed crying my eyes out because I was very upset with all that work I had put. But thankfully, I was able to salvage some of it. I did get 25 ears of corn out of it. But I did learn from my mistake. It was all mine. And going forward, I will make sure I heal my corn. I like to grow everything. But I would have to say nasturtiums. I, for some reason, have this infatuation with them. They are just so ethereal to me. I love that you can eat the whole plant, and they look great everywhere. And their leaves are so cool to look at, and their flowers are just bright and happy. And I think that's the biggest thing for me with them is they are just so happy. Eggplant. I have a very personal vendetta with eggplants. They are beautiful plants, and the vegetable they produce is absolutely stunning, but they have horrible pricklies when you go to harvest them, and I swear that they're out to get me. So I choose not to grow them every year in my garden. The most rewarding thing to come from gardening for me is the feeling when it's time to harvest. All of that hard work, but also that positive energy that you receive from gardening um, is just beyond anything. Like we feel good when we, do something great at work, or we do something great for a neighbor or a family member. But this is different. Like you grew your own food, and that is a whole different type of reward within itself. So I cook all the time, and when it's time to harvest, so we usually in our garden will harvest from June all the way into October. So we have a good solid 3 months of not having to go to the grocery store. We get everything from the garden, and I would have to say we do a lot of stir fries, but my most favorite recipe is stuffed squash. We usually use a patty pan or the 8-ball zucchini that we have here at Pinetree Garden Seeds. And the possibilities are endless. You can stuff it with sausage and cheese, or you can go vegetarian and do rice with vegetable. It's just a great, quick and easy meal, especially during the summer when you really don't want to cook, and you can freeze it. You can make big pans of it, and 20, 30 of them, and just use it in the wintertime. It's great. So one thing that I never garden without is my Pandora. I have to have my music all the time. Will never ever garden without it. So I love all music. I prefer classic 80s. I'm an 80s baby, so I grew up with it. Classic 80s rock, classic 80s, pop, all of it. Celine Dion's my favorite singer. So I listen to her a lot as well, but I usually put it on a nice mix of 70s, 80s, and 90s and mix it up. So I don't listen to any podcasts, but I do watch a lot of gardening YouTube videos. One of my favorites is Garden Answers. She's out of Oregon. I've been watching her for a long time. Another one is Wise Guy. He is great. He's out of the Midwest, so I really try to pay attention to gardeners that are on social media in different regions of our country, especially for what we do here at Pinetree, since we sell to all of you all over the country. It helps me keep up to date what your weather is like in your area. That way I can give you correct answers on what the best time to plant, harvest, so on and so forth. I would have to say when I'm not gardening, which is rare, I would say that I'm tending to my indoor garden that I have during the winter time, but also spending time with my husband. We try to do that as much as we can on the weekends since we're so busy during the week. Spending time with my dogs. We're both outdoors people, so we try to go to the beach, nature walks, just spending outside time as much as we can. During the winter time, we have friends over every Saturday. We have one particular group, and I cook every Saturday, and during the winter time we play card games, but during the summertime we're sitting around the fire. So we try to enjoy downtime and relaxing time. In the wintertime, I do like to binge watch The Golden Girls. It's one of my guilty pleasures. So sitting next to me is a vase full of daffodils and tulips. So when my husband and I went to buy our home 4 years ago, it was on the market for a week, and there were multiple bids on this house. And I wanted it because of the location and the property. And the owner, the current owner at the time, she was 83 years old, and she would not allow anyone to close on the house until springtime. And the reason for this is because she had thousands of daffodils planted all over the property. And she wanted someone that was going to take care of her daffodils. So she had chosen my husband and I to meet with her, and she really enjoyed us, and she was great to listen to. And that week before we closed on the house, she took me around the property to show me where everything was and all of her daffodils. And the last thing that she said to me was, "Please take care of my daffodils." And I told her, I said, "I am the best person to do that for you." So every year I get more and more of them from what she planted, but every year I keep adding more, hence the tulips. So I continue to make it more and more beautiful, and I know that she would love that.